So here we are back again at Archilab and the 10th level. And thank you very much for Archilab. And who else do we have to thank? We have to thank Neil. And who else?
Sherilyn.
Sherilyn. Thank you, Archilab. Thank you, Sherilyn. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone there.
And Phil.
Yeah. So this is why we have the space. And we're back here with Alexander.
Alex is good.
Alex.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
So I'm building an AI native sales CRM for F&B suppliers.
Like slowly. AI.
Native. Sales CRM.
Sales CRM.
For F&B suppliers.
So for FMC suppliers. So okay.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
First of all, like if you like us, please subscribe, please share, please comment, and this is how the algorithm knows about us and can share this to other people, and we need to grow. And this is the reason why we're here. So you're talking about like you're using AI, that I understand, and CMS.
CRM for like customer relationship management
to like restaurants, right? Apps, F&B, like it's like food and like beverage.
Yes, so it's actually intended for the food and beverage suppliers. So companies that produce physical goods or products, and then they sell their products to restaurants, bars, hotel chains.
So let's say I'm a winemaker, then I can use this system. I'll be able to sell my wine from my vineyard to, restaurants or supermarkets.
Exactly. So if you're a winemaker, you might have a sales team that is like out there selling your wine to those different places, and then they would be using my CRM system that I've been building to help them with their sales process.
That sounds very specific, and that sounds like a very targeted market.
Yes.
So how did you get into this, and how many years have you been using AI?
So perhaps a bit of background on myself. So I actually don't come from what you would call like a traditional technical background.
So you're not like Og that who went through like all this like computer studies schools and.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't. Okay. So I started my career off in financial technology, doing enterprise relationship management. I don't really like to use the S word too much, particularly in the AI Tinkerers community, but essentially I was a salesperson.
That sounds like a scary word. Yeah. Yes. Nothing wrong with sales. It's just like it's for some reason that it was a joke in the beginning that people don't seem because in AI. So the reason why, let's explain this a little bit. The reason why AI Tinkerers they wanted to, you guys want to keep it pure in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So because you guys have been to a lot of AI titled plays. Like there's a lot of business meeting. I'm sure a lot of you have been through. It felt like a business meeting. It felt like a networking, but it turned out to be a lot of people selling services. So that's why people go, no sales.
Yeah, that's right. We like to focus on the the practitioner side, the builder side, like the really deeply technical aspect.
It's just because there is this niche that just no one's doing it. So you guys did that. Yeah.
So that's what like AI Tinkerers likes to focus on. But I don't come from that sort of traditional technical background.
So you can see that people are very inclusive,
Yes, yeah, that's right. But I think for me, and we were just talking about this with Augustine, I like to dive deep into rabbit holes. When something kind of like really takes my interest, I really dive deep into the details. And So on my background, so I was doing enterprise sales and relationship management for 15 years. But then I've also been the co-founder of a food and beverage company making oat milk and dairy-free cheese. And I, at one point, was also a very avid home brewer. Used to make my own beer at home, something that I started when I came to Hong Kong. But I've always been really interested in technology. Which I think is now like when AI like first started becoming really popular and going mainstream, when ChatGPT first came out, it just totally captured me. And then I've been pretty much obsessed with it since then. and now I'm using AI to help me build my company and my product that I'm working on, and for many other things.
Is ChatGPT like or like other chat programs? Are they your best friend? Do you talk to them all the time?
So I use different AI models, and I use AI every day throughout the day. But I wouldn't say that it's my best friend. I think you have to keep a very healthy relationship with AI when you use it, because I think it can be very easy to go down a wrong path. I think you need to be kind of critical with what AI is saying to you.
Because there are some extreme cases that they said that they're like cases that, I mean, those are very extreme cases, that people that saying that the AI was convincing them that, you know, there's some security events that they have to end up calling the government and wasting a lot of time, but in fact it was not true. It was just they're going down some sort of weird rabbit holes.
Yeah, I think like AI psychosis is a real thing, and it's I think, you know, in the AI community, particularly with AI users, I think, you know, when you're using models daily, sometimes you see online people kind of like criticizing models for being too safe, for not responding to things. You know, people want to push these models to the limits of what they're capable of doing. But I think it's always good to kind of like take a step back and think that there has to be that safety aspect, because not everybody is using AI in the same way, and there, you know, might be people that really do get taken in by it, and I think you need those guardrails to make sure that it's safe for everybody to use. And you know, there's definitely some stories out there that you kind of hear that kind of make you think, yeah, you know, it can be dangerous, but at the same time, it can also like do so much and can help you like be like super productive, but you've just got to use it in the right way.
So how do you, like, I mean, okay, this is personal experience, but in your case, how did you manage not to have AI psychosis?
Well, if I kind of bring it back to like how I'm using AI to build and to do coding, when I first started using it, I started off doing what now, like, I think it was kind of before the term was coined, but it was vibe coding. Just started off like prompting it, seeing what comes back.
So vibe coding meaning coding without actually a lot of knowledge with computer language, right?
Yes, yeah. Like so when I say I don't come from a technical background, I never like formally learned like how to code.
So nothing, no Python, no.
I tried
no
over the years, particularly like working in kind of like fintech. You know, you always hear that, you know, you got to learn Python, you got to learn to code.
Yeah, there was a while that people go, if you want to do AI, you need Python.
Yes, whereas like now, I think that the models are so good at writing code, and people might say, well, you know, who am I to judge when I can't read the code? But I think there's different ways that you can validate what is being output from what the models can generate now. And then when I kind of said like, okay, I like to go down rabbit holes, I very quickly realized when you take the approach of like vibe coding, which is, in my opinion, when there's like you can be in the flow where you're working with AI and it's helping you, but if you aren't thinking things and planning and doing detailed specifications, you very quickly hit a wall. And I hit that wall, which then kind of forced me to think, okay, I need to look at things from a bigger perspective. I need to look at systems architecture. I need to look at engineering principles. I need to look at how you design applications. And then I very quickly went down that rabbit hole. And I think now that's put me in a position where I'm able to use AI like quite effectively. And yeah, so I use it like every day, but I definitely don't treat it as like my friend.
So there's like a work-life separation, right? So maybe AI is like your work buddy, but you don't want to like still talking to your work buddy off work hours. That might not be that healthy. Would that be a good analogy?
So I don't like. I think there are some people that use AI as like a companion,
yes,
because it can be very good to brainstorm with. Almost kind of like a therapy kind of element that you can get from it.
I think because in AI Tinkerer, I remember we have one sharing is an artist that use AI as his inspiration, so he likes to use that way as well.
And I think it can be a great partner to brainstorm with, to bounce ideas off. But what I always keep in mind when I'm using it is that these models have been they've been trained on like all of the content that's available on the internet plus more. So eventually they kind of revert to the mean on what they've been trained on. So you generally might get generic responses or outcomes from it, which is where I think something that Augustine was mentioning, taste is really important. So I think it's kind of understanding how the models have been trained and the relationship that we as people have when we talk to the AI models is really important in terms of what we expect it to do for us and what we know it's kind of capable of as well.
And so there's two things, right? The first thing is that, so it's almost in some way thinking back, your journey is quite meant to be because you're on both sides of this business. You were you for many years you were the sales, but you're also the clients, and also you're the enthusiasts, and also you have this characters that you like to find out what it is, what is going on. You like to go down the rabbit hole. But as you go down the rabbit hole of AI, you realize that, can I use this analogy? It's like, it's okay when we cook, sometimes we don't follow the recipe. For a single event, for one meal, it's very interesting, and sometimes, you don't even have to have precise portions. But if you have to cook for 50 people, then you kind of have to have a recipe. And that's basically, in some way, your experience with AI. In the beginning, you play with it. But halfway through, you go, hang on a second, I need a plan. Because, and then in some way, I need a plan specifically for this type of task. And actually, let me look at how people used to do this. For this type of things, there must be some general principle that I can follow. So that is what a plan, a system architectures, and a design principle. So you basically went to that level.
Yeah, and I think like when I was doing getting into homebrewing, like making beer, you've got to follow the process. You've got to make sure that you keep things at the right temperature. You've got to be super clean and make sure that nothing gets into the beer because that's going to spoil it. It's all about like quality control. And I think I take a lot of those kind of same principles when I'm working with AI in terms of like how I use it. And
so the title would be AI just like how you brew a beer.
I mean, essentially it's like different ingredients. So you have the what's part of your recipe that goes into it. So that's like your context, your input that you put into it. But then, in brewing, you have controlling your temperature and the brewing environment. I think in AI, you have your harness, the way that you steer the models to get them to do what you want to do. And like right now, one of my sort of like obsessions is how you can use AI for not just writing code, but actually having more of an autonomous loop on building software. So like how AI can actually be used to where you're not the one necessarily always giving the prompts, that's having AI write the code.
When prompt means like in the past we say with AI, it's very important to have the prompt to have for it to help you to write an article, or like for it to like you prompt it so that it would actually draw a image for you. And then now you say you don't necessarily need the prompt anymore.
I think it's on a couple of layers. So I think when like ChatGPT and all the other LLMs were first released, how you wrote the prompt was really important. Like the way you structured what the prompt layout, making sure that you put the context in the right place and the instructions in the right place and the words. There was a time when you would have to say to the AI, you are a software architect. Your task is to do this, and you would have to be very prescriptive. Whereas I think now it's much more about the context that you provide, less so the way that you give it. So I think if you communicate the right context to the models, because they're very intelligent now and they're very good at understanding context, even if it's very messy. So one thing now that I do actually is I don't really type my prompts. I just do everything through voice dictation. So I just do brain dumps, and I speak to it very quickly, very fast, just to get what's in my mind into the prompt input box. And then I'll let the AI kind of synthesize. But I'm not going straight from that to writing code.
Oh.
Because if you do that process, if you give a messy input and messy instructions, and then you straight to writing code, you're probably going to end up with like what these days is kind of like termed like slop. Like there's a lot of like AI slop being generated.
So if I tell the AI to write a recipe, if I go, oh, like chicken, and then like that lemon thing, and then I go, but I don't want it to be so salty, and then so I can just dump this thing, right?
Yeah, so you can give I call it, when I give it like a brain dump. I'll just dump what's in my mind, and I'll say synthesize this into something structured and tidy up my messy thoughts. And then you'll get a very structured output.
Wow.
That can be a super like handy for many different use cases. But for sort of like my process when I'm doing like software development is actually using AI to first write a plan and a specification, rather than jumping straight into the final output, which is
just build me a software or something.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think like vibe coding is when you're going with the flow and you're going straight from what's in your mind to having the AI write the code. Whereas the new kind of term that you're starting to hear a bit more is agentic engineering. Is the sort of like current like hot topic in the AI space, and that's about like how do you harness these models to not just write code, but leverage them throughout the sort of whole engineering and software development process. And this is what I'm like really interested right now, and I'm using a lot of different tools as part of that process.
Yeah. So the tools, like last time, Og was talking about there's the terminal, and then there's like I don't know, that was a lot, and he was saying that Alex can explain it so much better. So Alex, please explain it so much better for us.
So I think from that discussion, when you are like writing code, you can either like write the code just manually in a file. And typically, if you're doing that, you'd be using an integrated development environment or an IDE, where you would be able to type and write your code, and then you have your files, and then
long ago when like we're talking about in the late 90s, when you do HTML, that's considered like that's what you should do. Type it like that.
And then now there's on your computer, there's the terminal. So on like if you're on a Mac and then you open up the terminal, it's like a black window with a flashing cursor that you can just type commands in and operate it. So nowadays, a lot of the AI coding tools operate within that terminal window with the flashing cursor. And they are essentially running the large language model, the LLM, inside that environment, and they're using different tools that they have access to adjust the files on your computer and to write the code. Okay. So when you are the person that is working with that AI model, and you're saying, okay, I want you to write this code or work on this task, the AI model is going to understand your intent and then think, okay, what tools do I need to call to go and make those changes to the files on your computer and then write the code. So that's and these tools are just advancing at a rapid pace.
But right now in terminals, can you talk to them in human language, or do you still have to be like in the past type in computer language?
So typically for a lot of these new AI coding tools, you'll launch their product inside your terminal. with a one line, with maybe a one word command. From then on, the coding language is English or whichever language.
Oh goodness! Because
you speak.
in the past, when we launched Terminal, most of the time you go into C.
Yeah. Whereas now,
Which is almost an ununderstandable language that like close to what the computer would know. Yeah.
Whereas now the coding language is the language that you're most comfortable in. So for me that's English, but if you want to use these tools by typing Chinese, you can also do any language. They'll work, and so it's more about, can you effectively communicate what you want the models to output. And I think the challenge I have, like particularly, is sometimes when I sit down to work on a task, I don't always know exactly what I might have a rough idea of what I want to accomplish, but I don't know all the gritty details. And if I don't specify that, the AI is going to assume
they're going to wing it.
It's going to, and essentially that's going to come back to like the average based on all the training data. So I spend a lot more time on the building out the specifications and using AI as part of that process to help me brainstorm, write the specification, and then go from that to then implementing it into building out.
And that is actually much closer to what you want.
Yes, because you kind of can see the specification with what the end deliverables should be, and the end goals, and also the non-goals, like what I don't want, this is what I do want. And then it's a bit more like, okay, before that is even written, the models are that good these days that you pretty much going to get something close to what the spec.
And then, so there are like tools like Microsoft Copilot or Midjourney that generate like images, right? And then so like the equivalence of what you are saying is, maybe first I will go to like ChatGPT or go to the DeepSeek or go to one of those LLM and say, hey, I want to generate an image, but help me work it out. What is the prompt that I'm going to send in those places for this image?
Yes, yeah, they are like a thought partner that you can work with, that you can ask it to ask you questions. So like one technique that I've started doing a lot more recently is actually have the AI interview me to say, okay, I want you to interview me by asking me questions about what I'm trying to achieve, about literally anything, to be exhaustive, to ask me about technical aspects, user experience, design elements. And the AI can be relentless in its interview process. It could ask me like 50 questions. I prefer to have like one by one question at a time, so then I can give an answer. And now that you have like voice dictation is really good, you can just answer those interview questions through voice and through speech rather than having to type and think it out. And because the process is very guided by an interview process that the AI is going through, you then end up with a whole bunch of context that you can then generate a really good plan, or at least a beginning of a specification.
Okay,
and
that is great for like, I can trust it to do maybe like to generate pictures, but you're telling me that it can build a very complex software.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so once you generate that plan, you bring it to like another tool.
I mean, it depends, because that process can be done in any AI chat model. You don't need to be using one of these coding tools. And you can even have just coding tools that you talk to on your phone or on the web. They can also like write code. But the great thing about the latest set of tools that's been around for around about a year or so is that they then write the code and then save it in the files on your computer without you needing to kind of like copy and paste things across.
Wow.
So this is kind of like where the current sort of like state of the technology is. And a lot of these tools started with, I think the first one was Cursor. Was one of the first ones, came out, I think, maybe 2023 to 2024. And then these tools that you run inside your terminal to write the code I think Claude Code was one of the first ones. It came out early 2025.
Claude is Og's favorite.
Yeah, it's a very, very good model. They have a good set of models.
But he mentioned Cursor as well, I remember.
And I think for me,
what is your weapons of choice?
I was going to say one of the things that I think helps me is the fact that I've been using these tools from when they first came out, essentially, and I sometimes for my own disadvantage, maybe I encountered a lot of walls, but I think one benefit is that I went with sort of a totally blank slate in terms of how I approach to use them. And I've spoke to a few people that have maybe been long-term software engineers,
like Og,
like Augustine. Although I know he likes to adopt
he's very open-minded.
But there are some people that have been long-term software engineers,
and the old fogies.
They're quite cautious about using it because they've experienced things in their career that make them understandably cautious. Whereas
because you've been we've been lied to in the industry that people keep on crying wolf, saying that it can be done. So to the point that no one really quite believed that it can be done, and all of a sudden it can be done.
The pace now is it's mind-boggling how quickly things are advancing.
It used to be months. It used to, in the past, it used to say 18 months.
Yep.
And then it gone to maybe 3 months, and now it feels more like weeks or days.
Yep. So I can give you an example. When I first started, I've been working on my CRM system that I've been building for a little over a year now. But now, if I have a hobby project or something that I want to experiment with, I can have a full application up and running within a day or two. So I'll give you an example. I recently went on a trip to China where I knew that there was going to be moments where I would need a translator to help me because my Chinese isn't that good. And I didn't want to burden any of the people that I was going on that trip with by having to make them responsible for translating for me.
That's very computer nerd of you.
So I built a translation app.
That's definitely a very computer nerd.
Specifically for this trip, that would transcribe what was being said and give me a real-time translation on the fly.
So how long did it take you to tell the computer to build this?
So I spent about a week just thinking about it in my head, the concept of what I wanted to achieve. And then I was also testing some other translation apps that you get, some phones have a built-in translation app. There's Google Translate. There's a lot of things out there. But none of these really kind of help me with when you're listening to someone giving a talk for an hour. Because they would wait and expect for the person to stop, give you a translation, and then you would kind of not be able to follow along the conversation. I wanted something to follow along real time.
Simultaneous translator.
Yes. So actually my inspiration were UN interpreters. So I started researching how UN interpreters do their job, how they do translation. And that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of what an interpreter does. And I found this video, which I think was from Wired, and they were interviewing interpreters. And they said that they would spend weeks preparing for a summit. Let's say it's a treaty negotiation. They would read the documents and make notes of all of the key words, everything that potentially might come up, so that then when they're doing that real-time interpretation for their heads of state, they know all the terms immediately and they've been practicing. So I thought, okay, well maybe I can brief AI, maybe I can tell them about what my trip is going to be about, so that it can have that knowledge. But actually, it turns out that wasn't even necessary.
Oh.
Because AI, the models are so good these days that they have access to all that information, and they're able to translate these words straight away anyway.
The equivalent I can think of is in Matrix that Neo go, I know Kung Fu now.
Yes.
Within a few seconds.
Yes. They can just have that recall Obviously, some things like proper nouns and names still kind of like make mistakes, but for general concepts, they are very good.
So how long did it went from you had this idea, went down the rabbit hole, asked, and then plan, and then ask your buddy, the AI, to build you this tailor-made simultaneous translation app?
So thought about it in my head for about a week, maybe spent a few hours writing a specification and a plan, but the actual like building of the app, maybe 1 to 2 hours.
Oh wow!
To get it actually like ready. So that it could hear the voices, do the transcription, do the translation. Because once you've made like one app or two apps, and then you kind of know which technology you're going to use, which APIs or cloud services you might want to integrate. That's the easy part. So I think for me, the challenging part is the planning and the specification. Now I think like the building part is
it's almost like an afterthought.
That's the easy part.
So when you plan well, you will get the result.
I think so, yeah. And
you didn't need any alliteration. It just came out. It was good.
You hit some bugs, but I have AI code reviewers that find the bugs for me. So that's not too much of an issue.
You spend like let's say 2 hours for this thing, and then how long did it take you to debug?
Maybe like another hour or so afterwards.
So let's give it 5 hours.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's very scary.
Yeah, for an app that I now have on my phone, that I've actually since used at a AI Tinkerers event where we had. Somebody said to me, hey, they'd seen my app. Can we use that to translate at the event? So I was like, okay, let me quickly add a group mode where people can enter in a code and then join a session on their phone. And then I did that on my lunch break, added that in on the day of the event. And then we used that to do the translation for a live event. So I think I think software is changing like a lot, in terms of the speed that software can be built, that anybody will be able to build software. Even to the point where something very interesting just came out overnight from OpenAI, just today.
Well, we are recording today, and then by the time that we need to better get this stuff out fast, because things are changing by the second.
They've released a new, it's not even really like a product, I would call it actually, because they're not even like giving you a product. They just published a specification on GitHub. And then they say, ask your coding agent to build this for you as a tool. So they're not even like, obviously they're still shipping apps and products, but for this particular, I don't even know if we can call it software. For this,
so in future, they're just shipping out ideas now.
I think eventually that might be the direction that we're going, because I think like a lot of software might be, you build it once, you use it once, and then you discard it. In some cases, like if you want an app to track the food that you eat, to count the calories, you want to build a workout tracker or something like that. These kind of things, eventually you're just gonna, even now, AI can build you that in an instant, and you can use it. And I think eventually that's going to be the direction that things go, that a lot of software is just going to be ephemeral. You use it once, maybe for that particular use case. And as the models get better and quicker, they're going to be even better at doing that.
I'm trying to imagine this kind of economy. How is it going to work? It's almost like an idea-based economy. Well, hold that thought. We'll take a break, and then we're going to come back, and then that's going to be more of Alex. So, we have to thank like Orki Labs, and like 10th level research lab. Thank you very much. And it's because of that we're here. And I'm going to take a quick break. Remember to subscribe, to share, and to like us. And we'll be back.